Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Kova, and today our good friend Masaki Miyagawa is back. His website is akaida.com, and I'm very happy to have him after quite a while that we haven't talked. So, Masaki, welcome.
I'm alive, Judith. I can't remember the last time we had a talk, but it might have been. Was it at the beginning of this year? I can't remember.
Yeah, beginning.
Right,
Yeah.
and then so shortly after, maybe March or something like that, I started dropping weight every day, and then after 2 months, it was getting concerning. Like I was losing muscle mass, so thanks to Pendulum Healer, Chris Kaler,
Mhm.
and there's also a woman, Bridie Machado, in UK. I had multiple sessions, and just like we're doing now over Zoom.
Mhm.
I don't know what this white man's magic is, Judith, but you better go to Chris Kaler because he's gonna fix your ass. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. I It was pretty dire, you know. Um, I was probably within 2 weeks of being hospitalized.
Okay.
Like I was barely able to get up, like sit up,
Mhm.
or getting in and out of the car was very difficult. But when you're in it, maybe you don't realize what's going on sometimes. So I was going, oh, it's like when you're going down a hole and you're wondering, okay, where is this going? Well, the ultimate destination is probably death, disappearing from this world, right? But uh, I think that because you asked, was I comfortable talking about it, and I think it's a good story to tell because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's been going through things, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's also because I'm very fixed as far as the astrological kind of thinking. I have a lot of Scorpio, Taurus, and you know, it, it's basically I'm very you could say I'm stubborn, hard headed, but it's also what allowed me to uh work 24/7 for 7 years, and then basically I collapsed. That was part of it too. I overworked myself,
Yeah.
so um a lot of the fixed signs are going through it, especially because we're in a time of change, right? It should be obvious. I'm not the only one to say this, but the fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, right? There's that axis. There's always one sign always has the opposite node. So Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo, Aquarius, or Aquarius, Leo. So these are stubborn people or stubborn signs, right? So for a person like me to change, I would have to basically get smacked down and have to make a dramatic shift turn, right? And I think I might have even said on your show that I was planning, or I had this feeling for at least a year or two that what I've been doing is going to come to an end. But of course, Scorpio, the ruling planet is like Mars or like Pluto, right?
Mhm.
Control freak. So I thought I would have control over it, right? I can
Mhm.
I can decide when I'm gonna stop. Didn't turn out that way. It's basically I went through a health crisis, and then I said, okay, well, I guess that's it. So I have been working, but much slower, and basically what I've been doing, the way I've been working up until now, I'm going to end probably by the end of this year, which is
Mhm.
fine, But yeah, maybe you're a Sagittarius, right?
I'm a Sagittarius. That's
So
mutable fire. Yeah.
maybe you've been more in the mindset of like I'm just gonna go, let's adventure, let's try it out. I'm kind of like more steady. It's like once I'm locked in, I don't
Mhm.
deviate. We can talk about this too when we get into the I guess the forecast, what I see coming
Mhm.
for 2022.
Yeah.
But I'm a Scorpio sun, but I'm Taurus rising, and that's pretty well. It is fixed, you know. And Taurus is the sign that rules cults, dictators, and cult leaders. You know why? Because it's a fixed sign, right? We're like Jim Jones or like Hitler in the bunker. We ain't gonna deviate. No matter what happens, this is the plan. It's a cult mentality, right? So I'm in my own pyramid cult. It's like I'm, you know, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna work till like 4 a.m. or whatever. I got orders to do, and so I think my clients have always been happy, but it was to, I sacrificed my health and other things, and we'll also talk about that because it's represented in these issues of balance are really key next year.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, basically, what can I say about that? I think there's a lot of people been going through crises and change is never easy. But I do believe a lot of our people, it's actually what I see is a lot of people about to take a next big step in their lives, which I see as a progression, you know, whereas a lot of other people are taking the regression. Or maybe they're evolving into something that's not human, what we would consider human. But yeah, so you know, it was intense. I don't know if I've been through anything that intense in my life before.
Yeah, when we had some email exchanges
Uh-huh.
while you were going through it, and I had, from what you told me, I had the impression that is a very, very bad burnout combined with something else, maybe some energetic attack.
It's called the goddamn devil. Yeah, when I was working. So another thing is now, I probably as you are, I am very uh careful about who I work with as far as healing work,
Mhm.
because once you give that permission, oh, they can do anything to you, right? But there are good healers out there, and maybe if you have a positive mindset, maybe that protects you from some things. Scorpio people are born paranoid, right? But I was in such a state, uh I was willing to try anything,
Mm.
and again, I wasn't afraid of dying, but I was just, it's like you're looking down a hole, you're just falling down a hole, and you're dropping weight every day. You're like, okay, where after 2 months you're like, where is this going, right?
Mm.
um so yeah, I'm sure there's many healers out there, but I work with Chris Kaler, he's in Canada,
Mm.
and woman Bridie Machado in UK, and it's pretty amazing, that just with the pendulum, uh while they're dowsing out what's going on, right? What's the condition? Where's the problem? And then some is like more above board, physical. They're like, oh, you got this problem. It's a metabolism thing. Blah blah blah. Your nerves are fried, basically, overwork, stress.
Mm.
But like you said, there was some weird spiritual things going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what it sounded
Yeah.
to me. Yeah. Mm.
And which is odd because I never had that in my mind that could happen. But I think it's related to the fact that a lot of us are about to take a big step up, or we're going to be able to have more influence, and that means we're going to be able to help more people, and we're going to be able to shift things in the way that we would like. Well, the
Mm.
goddamn devil don't like that, Judith. So yeah, so
Yeah.
you know I think everything happened the way it's supposed to happen, and I think that we have more power than we know, but we have less control than we think, because I think a lot of things are pre-programmed in a way.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, I know I have to do certain things, or you could do anything, but I just feel like I'm supposed to do certain things, or there's certain things I'm going to do, there's certain things I wouldn't do. But even that we may be fooling ourselves. I think we're almost like cartoon characters. We're built with a certain setup, you know? It's like we come in with a poker hand, and then based on that, maybe you could shift things a little bit this way or that way, but that's the whole question of free will, right? Do we
Mhm.
really have free will? Or we tricked to think we have free will and we're trapped in the hamster cage or something, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, here we had our wonderful election,
Oh,
and
great.
yeah, new government.
Uh-huh.
Same shit, different package.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we're in the world's greatest humiliation ritual right now with Biden, right? But it's pretty obvious that now I'm not saying that Trump was totally scripted,
Mm,
but that whole left right paradigm,
mhm,
uh, you know, it's amazing to me that there's still QAnon people out there. They're just like, wait another couple months, the arrests are coming. I'm like, well, now it's even worse if Trump comes back. That's probably why they're gonna bring him back in the media, at least.
yeah.
Whether he assumes an office, who
Mm,
knows? But they're gonna bring him back in the media. But
mm,
think about that. It's like they've been kind of like holding these recounts and the election thing in the background to the right moment to cause the maximum chaos, right? Well, yeah, we could talk about that too. It's just the American people will still be here, but the government, the
mm.
Pluto return, which is like it's like the death date, or you could say the death birth moment, right? So there's gonna be a transformation, and it's based on the 1776 inception date of U.S. The end is February 2022, which may have to do with the global economic collapse, which is it's coming probably in November. I think it's going to hit.
You think that soon?
Well, we may be put into some kind of bankruptcy reorganization, or it's
Mm,
just that like past this point. I mean, it's already done already, but I think it's going to become very apparent on the surface that something shifted. So,
You know what I find very confusing these
mhm.
days? I mean, after the corona nonsense, a lot of people lost their businesses, their livelihoods, their
Yep.
jobs, what have you.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm reading now all the time is that people cannot find employees. What's going on? Does that
Well,
make any sense?
I think one is they have been well. You have to factor in the time you're working for the pay you're getting versus can I subsist on some level of government payments and maybe I have to move in with other people. I think a lot of people are just fed up, you
Hmm.
know.
You
Well,
mean,
I'll put it to you this way too. There are ways to make money right now that just it doesn't make sense to work a regular, especially entry level wage,
Mhm,
because I'm not saying it's the answer, like the how you say it's not the salvation, but it is a trend, and that I've been following it for a while. Is the cryptocurrency.
mhm,
If you know what you're doing with cryptocurrency, why the hell would you work a job like a day job?
mhm.
You know, and we're probably in the last period where these tremendous gains could be made because Judith, they don't want making people making money like this.
Yeah, what is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, back to flipping burgers, please. So, but what is interesting, China has now, they are very far ahead with their electronic
Yeah.
renminbi, yuan, whatever you
Well,
want to call it. And so now they have declared any and all crypto transactions illegal.
the funny thing about that is the Chinese government's one of the biggest Bitcoin holders. So they, you know what it is they're doing capital controls right now
Mm,
because they're afraid of money leaving mainland China.
mhm,
So that's what that's about. And right now, so that collapse, it's gonna hit here, or it's gonna hit the West within like a month probably. That's why I'm saying probably around November there's gonna be some kind of systemic market crash, and that's when we go into the next phase. I think that's part of it, because I don't know what you're seeing in Germany, but uh, I'm in. Well, we talked about it before. I'm in the Williamsburg of LA. If people know New York, it's very hipster,
mhm.
super blue. The famous pea hat, that pink pea hat, the pussy hat. It was invented in my neighborhood. So I'm actually in a double mask area. And the other day I was driving around and I noticed the joggers are usually wearing masks, but nobody was wearing masks.
Mm,
So something shifted, and these people, they probably don't. They're such NPCs. They probably don't even know why they're not wearing a mask.
mhm.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm in a double mask area, so something shifted. So the whole COVID thing is kind of winding down, I think. But you know what the next thing is? It's the economic collapse, which I talked about like a year or two ago. But sometimes so for readers, a lot of times it's difficult to pin down the exact sequence. We just
Mhm.
know like if this happens, then that's going to happen. So in a positive way, people had time to process things, because imagine if the economic collapse would have happened. Well, people think we've had an economic collapse. You just wait till you see what happens. You want
Mm.
to see what a real collapse looks like? Just
Yeah.
wait another couple, in the next 6 months, you're going to start to see it.
You know,
Yes.
it somehow makes sense from the perspective that we still have Taurus, no, sorry, Uranus in Taurus
Right.
until
26.
2026. Yeah.
And
So,
and
and we had that um, during the Great Depression and then
right.
working their way up to World War II.
Well, Uranus is that Aquarian energy, right? It just
Mm,
overturns everything. It's like a revolution. And then Taurus rules economy.
yeah.
So you're talking
Yeah,
about economic,
but you,
total economic shift, right?
yeah, but I think that in general, Uranus is not really, yeah, too happy in Taurus because Taurus also has, this, yeah, pretty and harmonizing and be nice and
Well, that's Libra. Well, the two signs ruled by Venus
mm,
are Libra and Taurus. Taurus is not although if you look at like Taurus rising, so the way
mm,
people look, there's typically two types. There's people ones that kind of look like a more stalking a bull. That might be me because I'm Taurus rising. But the other one is very Venusian, typically, like very beautiful.
mm,
But Taurus, it's not, like I said, that is the sign of dictators and cults.
yeah. But it has these harmonizing aspects and as well.
Well, it's more
But
it's more.
Uranus in Taurus
Uh-huh.
is, that is, I
Well,
don't
it's
care
called
about that.
it's called chaos. But
Mm.
um, I have one side note. If because I
Yeah,
went to
sure.
Austin, I went to Austin a month or something ago. Emily Moyer, uh, she has like Off Planet Radio, and she has a bunch of her own shows. Uh, she's in Austin, originally from LA, moved to Austin now, and so this is the second time I went because I went end of 2020, Robert Phoenix's astrology conference, and then this is the second time I went to Central Texas, and it was interesting, Judith, because you know Texans complain about, well, the more conservative Texans complain about Austin because it's so blue,
Mhm.
Let me tell you, coming from LA, it was heavenly. Because yeah, you know, you see some homeless camps popping up, whatever, but it's much cleaner. They have a nice river walk, and you get to see. You know, they used to talk about the brain drain, right, from the Eastern Bloc to the West.
Mhm.
That's kind of like what you're seeing, though. It's like the energy of the people. They're taking their finances and everything, and they're moving into some of these places like Texas, right? So you could see uh the there's sort of like an optimism where people are having a new start, but but there's a portal area in that downtown Austin where
Mhm.
all the corporate buildings are, and you know, Emily Moyer's been covering it, and some of these things, you know, I don't disbelieve it, but I put it as a maybe, right? But when we were there, there's some very odd, some very odd stuff. You know, all these like owl sculptures, and I can't even go into all, but let's just say there is some kind of like weird energy dimensional thing going on there. And of course, high finance, they're gonna move to the right areas, right? So that was sort of the thing that I saw is like out of the US, some of these more heartland areas, and let's say Texas is the South, those are coming up as the coastal cities, the traditional metropolises are collapsing. But Apple, Google, Tesla, you know, Elon Musk has has an office there in downtown Austin. And so I think that gave me an idea of what the future of US might be, you know. As far as like where the most stable areas are,
Mhm.
I think Austin could be a great city, but don't think he escaped. Because those big corporate deep state powers are they're already set up there,
Mhm.
you know. So that was interesting, you know. So as far as like the vibe, quality of life, all those kind of things, I thought it, you know, I thought it was great coming from LA to go see
Yeah.
Austin. But then you just, you know, just noticing of what's going on, a lot of occult stuff. Texas is a heavily Masonic state, and you could literally see it in the architecture what's going on there in Austin. That there's definitely it's not just symbology. There is some kind of power. There's a reason why they're building certain things in certain shapes on certain locations, and then who's there. It's all those technocracy companies that are there. So I mean, if I was going to stay in the U.S. and I had I don't know if we talked about astrocartography before, but you can put your kind of fortune and misfortune lines or your power lines. You could see them on a geographic map using your, you know, natal chart or your astrological information.
Yeah.
So if those two lined up, if I felt like I could really do something, well, yeah, I'll say this: I could do okay in Texas. I like it, but I don't want to just do okay. I want to excel.
Mm. So,
So
so how do you do that? You take your birth chart and then you.
you take the time of birth, the location,
Mhm.
um, and there's actually a free site. If you go just type, if you search astrocartography, you can input your information.
Mhm.
And actually, I'll send you the link after. Could even put it in the description. People might find it interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know, I would definitely visit Texas in the future, but I don't feel like it's for me to move there like permanently. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will do well in Texas. But guess who else followed you there, or who was actually there before you got there? You know,
Yeah.
so I think you know it's interesting that uh, Alex Jones and you know, I've been on Freeman Fly show. I'm not saying Freeman's an agent, but there was a number, including Emily Moyer. They were all there at a key time. Now Freeman and Emily left. Alex stayed, but I think there was a reason why they were there.
Mhm.
You know, and I think they knew for a long time that Austin was going to be a key point to keep on top of. You know, yeah. Because think about it, Alex Jones. He's originally from Dallas, right? he started doing stuff in an Austin public access TV like over 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Now, whether he's aware of it or not, I think he's some kind of MK Ultra or something. Or let's just say he was guided to be what he is today.
Yeah.
And I think that was not by accident that they picked Austin as a key point to seed some projects. You know? Yeah.
Projects in terms of, yeah.
Well, in terms of media, in
Mhm.
terms of you know, and you know what, we know what Alex is, but I love Alex Jones. The man is hilarious. He's sort of like a Trump in a way, you know. The man is hilarious, but
I thought for many years that one fine day he will have a heart attack while doing a
oh
live
yeah.
show.
Well, I'm not sure of the exact date, but I don't. You know, people that are astrologers can look into this, but I don't think Alex is going to be with us much longer. Exactly because what you
Mhm.
said, but
Mhm.
you know, Alex Jones had a lot to do with the whole growth of the patriot, so-called patriot movement. You know, and
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
some people say he's coke snorting and has a lot of
oh,
hookers,
he's
and I don't know
but
that. I don't know the guy personally,
well,
so
well, Judith, you're talking about a rock star though. Alex Jones is performance art. So, you know, in that way, it's like how can I be mad at Alex Jones? I mean, the guy's, you know, the
mm,
guy's who he is. So as long as you understand where he is on the board, how can you be mad at him, right? But even me in the thick of the Trump era, I mean, it was kind of exciting, right? It was different. Trump was a
mm,
disruptor, right? But now that Trump's kind of left the stage, you could see how controlled a lot of things were. Now, some people would say, like, well, Trump, he didn't have any option or whatever. Well, whatever the case, you could see how things were managed. And then some people may follow Steve Bannon, right? Bannon's War Room, right? That whole narrative is like, it's what they don't mention that's important, right? And
mm,
it's so clear like they're trying to angle it into a war of the West or the U.S. against China, which, you know, there's definitely things that the U.S. has done and there's definitely things China's done, but there's a hidden hand behind the hidden hand. There's like, you know, so
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And another interesting thing, because we talked already a
Uh-huh.
little bit about cryptocurrencies. Mm, was it April or May this year on a finance summit? China said that they are thinking about that their e-yuan
Uh-huh.
that might appear on the network of Diem, and Diem is the successor to Libra, Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so and okay, there are still talks. Yeah, it's not that it's set in stone,
Mhm.
but just speculate for a second here. Then you have China and the US corporation,
Uh-huh.
working together. So that entire narrative, China is our enemy, I don't buy that. And
Well, the
on the
thing is, yeah.
surface, yes, but
Well, the thing is that what is China?
mm,
I don't think anybody really knows 100% what China is, because the Jesuits have been in there for like 400 years, you know? And then the whole you know, you had the Taiping rebellion, which not a lot of people talk about. There's this guy that thought he was Jesus or something. Chinese guy thought he was a messiah. It was a gigantic cult. They had you know, wars going in inside China. I think this was around like maybe the 17 or 1800s.
mm,
And then so, but it was, I think it was connected to Christianity. So where did that come from? Then later you had the whole revolutionary era,
mm,
which both sides, the Kuomintang, the Chiang Kai-shek's faction, which the nationalist faction, which escaped to Taiwan, and then so the KMT and the Chinese Communist Party CCP, they were both trained by Soviet Bolsheviks. So again, you just see like it all go, it's a whole Masonic thing,
Yeah.
which goes back to what Enki and Enlil, right? It's the whole Cain and Abel, the two. So we're in like sort of like a factional fight, but it's a family feud. So
Exactly.
it doesn't matter who wins because you're still in the same system,
Yeah.
So are you on the black square or the white square?
Yeah.
Does it matter? You're still on the Masonic. You're still in the lodge, So,
yeah. This what I just described, that they are thinking about connecting the EU1 with DM. The interesting thing about is that nobody is reporting about it.
This is the first time I've heard about it from you. But so they have this new standard. It's called the ISO 20022, and it's a new. It's basically the banker regulations for crypto, and I think it's going to come in really in maybe 2023 or 2024. And that's also why I'm saying that right now is probably the last time that people will make tremendous gains in cryptocurrency, because I think it's going to be heavily regulated in a year or two. And I don't think there's any argument that cryptocurrency is the entry to the beast system. But we've been using these, at least in US, we've been using these greenbacks with the all-seeing eye in the back for how long? Since like FDR, right? So like 90 years or something like that. So I think it's the same thing. It's just that it's bumped up to an Aquarian level where it's more technological and things are going to happen a lot quicker.
Yeah, but with the incoming energy crisis that is going to go global, yeah, I don't know if that is the best idea, because UK already here in the cities, 90% of the gas stations are out of gas. And the other day on oil price, I'm watching that situation in the UK, and on this website oil price, and there they said, yeah, it's going to go global. Energy crisis.
It's number one, it would have happened anyway to some extent with the lockdowns, but then they're doing it on purpose too, right? But the thing is, Judith, I think we might have mentioned this before, but I think something went off schedule, or this whole COVID narrative. I think that they probably would have liked to do it like 5 or 10 years out when they had the internet more locked down. Because guess what? If you do this, you better make damn sure that you accomplish your goal. Because if you only do it halfway, well, now you like poke the bee's nest, and now you killed a lot of people off, but now you pissed off a lot of people too. And I think that they're walking a fine line. I really don't think that it's gonna. Of course, they're gonna capture a lot of people, because a lot of people is dum-dums. But now all those people got the jab, and guess who's left? Stubborn people like us. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
it's
today,
like now you got a real problem on your hands,
Yeah, and today I read that key suppliers for Tesla and Apple, they stopped production because of energy crisis in China.
Well, also the automobiles, right? We're having the prices of cars across the board, used or new, is going off the charts. And I think that now it's not the end of the world, but for the average person, it's the end of the world as you knew it, right? So we could enter a period of a number of years. It could be like 5+ years where you're gonna see an extreme scarcity in things. Like if you need a car, you'll probably be able to get one, but you're gonna have to pay for it, or you're gonna have to do a lot of footwork to. I know a person in Texas that teenage son, first car. So guess what they did? They drove out all the way here to California to find like a car that was busted up, like it needed repair, and then hitched it to a trailer, and or like they hitched it to the car and they hauled it all the way back to Texas. That's how that's how extreme the situation and finding. Now this is just the car, and we're not in the full blown collapse yet, right? So you could put the, and this is what I was saying for my in the end of 2019 when I was forecasting 2020, and this is before the lockdowns happened, right? That supply chain. But then see, the thing is that as a forecaster or a reader, sometimes the things don't fall exactly in the way you might think. But in a way, it was good because I've been prepping for like over a year and a half now, right? So I did pretty much most of my food because a lot of it's canned or pasta or whatever. So I did. I've never bought so much supplies in my life.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then when I'm at, like, maybe you're at the Aldi's, I'm at Trader Joe's. They're like, "Hey, where's the party?" They see all this stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, there's a party this weekend." you know, so like, "Where's the party at?" And it's like, but I think in a way it goes kind of like back to what I was saying, is that a lot of things are programmed into us that we're not even aware of. So it's the same thing. A lot of people, they didn't know it, but they were born to take the shot. You and I were not born to take the shot. And there's people that now it could be stressful. It could be it's gonna take adjusting and these kinds of things. But I think a lot of your viewers will be able to pass through this time. Whereas the same people that took the shot, this kind of thing, you gotta have a vision and a conviction that I'm going to survive. I know why this is happening, and we can pass through. These people that are holding onto the hand of Big Daddy government and Fauci and Bill Gates, good effing luck. Right? So in that way, even if, because I had the money to put away to buy supplies. But even if you didn't, if you just had the mentality that I will survive, that's like 90% of it right there.
Yeah.
And the average person, they don't have that. Or
Yeah.
well, let me just say this, because I've been thinking a lot about my family and background, and then other people that I know. And I did a talk recently with a Persian American guy that he's an acupuncturist, and then we were talking about, because it's one of my interests, right? I've been talking about the Buddha connections between Middle East and Central Asia to Japan, and I was thinking about him, and I was thinking about myself, and I think that having some kind of cultural foundation beyond pop culture is actually a kind of a protection, because it's like an operating system, right? Who are you? What are your beliefs? What are your core beliefs? Those kind of things. So then when they bring in things like a great reset, it's much more difficult to reprogram these kind of people. And if you look in like Australia, right, who are they hammering first and the hardest? It was the immigrants. A lot of the Muslims, people from Africa, people from the Eastern Bloc, Slavs, because guess what? These are tough people. You tell them you can't work, they're gonna say, "Get the hell out of my way! I gotta feed my family. I gotta work." Where a lot of the Australians that have been there for generations are similar to the U.S. citizens or Americans, right? Where they've kind of like gotten a little lazy and comfortable. They don't have that drive of the immigrant, right? We're like, I drop down and I'm gonna, I'm here to work. I'm gonna look for work today. Go, I can wait out on the corner in front of Home Depot. Need somebody to build something, whatever, And so the having some cultural connections, whether wherever you're coming from, I think it's a kind of a protection. Because even though I'm like I would be considered maybe like fourth generation Japanese American here. Family's been here like 100 years or so. Uh, but I spent many hours in the temple, right? So I was absorbing all that, and now I'm glad, Judith, because most people just grew up on pop culture. Before it was like MTV, those kind of things. Now the kids are on the Black Mirror, the scrying mirror of the TikTok, the phone apps.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like blank slate, which was like that whole Kalergi plan, right? Create the dumbed down brown mass, then you could just program them with anything.
Mm-hmm.
That I've been thinking about that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when the collapse is in full swing, it will hit a lot of people like a shovel, and especially mentally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they have been so obedient, they did everything, and yeah, and now it's all going down in a handbasket.
Well, the ones that are going to cry the most are these Antifas and the BLM types, or the rainbow flag people, because they thought they had the pulse of the culture and everything, and anything you do is going to be to your benefit, or you could still hang on to them and have your avocado toast or whatever. And, not that the QAnon people are the greatest, but I'll tell you this, Judith. Whatever you think about the QAnon cult and JFK is coming back, just wait. I can assure you,
They get better through it. Yeah.
well, how many of those people are taking the shot? Because they're conspiracy theorists, right? So, they're whatever that is, whatever that means, it's just no. They've done polls, right? Very few of these like so-called right-wing Trumper QAnon types, they ain't taking the shot, where it's like across the board. It's very I don't know if it's hit me 100% yet, but most of my friends here and in Brazil, they're all the arts and music people. They all took the shot. So which makes you also wonder, because I don't think that's a good thing. What's going to happen to like the arts and music? Because certain mentalities, they tend to excel at certain things. Now, I don't, we know the whole thing around the shots, but
yeah,
these, whatever you think about their politics, a lot of these people, they're genius at what they do as far as arts and music, and those people, they seem to be exiting stage left right now.
So okay, let's say you are correct. Collapse will start. What did you say? October or November?
It looks like November. There's going to be some kind of event. I don't know what it's going to be. If it's going to be like a currency collapse, or that's when this Evergrande, the China the China real estate, the contagion hits. It's going to hit here at some point. And it will affect the cryptocurrencies also.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say that that happens, and it really goes downhill. So that means even more people will lose their jobs, and of course, the AI will do an extra topping of that, because a lot of jobs will be unnecessary because it will be taken over by AI.
And the UBI, that's where the UBI comes
yeah,
in.
and that is exactly, but you need to bring them back as consumers. And that is when they introduce, and I guess people will be desperate enough, to accept the UBI.
Well, the thing is that I think that your viewers or people that have been looking into alternative research, we've heard of these ideas. Well, it goes back to the Chosenite thinking, right? That there's the chosen, and then there's the cattle, right? the sheeple. Judith, not in a way, they are correct. It's just, okay, now we can clearly see. I never doubted it 100%, but it just hits home because now we've been seeing it the last year or more, right? That there's just people that get it and there's people that don't get it. I always knew that, but now you're saying it where they really don't get it to the point where they're a danger to themselves, their children, and their family because
Yeah.
of the decisions they're making, right?
Mm.
It doesn't make them bad people. They're just not that conscious. So that's where the split is, right? I think a lot of these so-called the white nationalists or whatever you call it, extreme so-called extremists, right? They were in fact correct in their assessment that there's just a lot of sheeple out there. But then their conclusion, maybe I don't agree with, where it's like, well, then we just gotta like call the herd. Right? It's like, well, maybe gotta be try to help these sheeple in some way, even though they don't seem to want the help. But there's that split. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's one of the things where going, because I'm bringing this up because of the whole UBI and where the economics are going. I don't know if I brought this up before, but I had talked to a guy in Canada, very talented music producer.
Mm-hmm.
I never met him. Oh, actually, I did meet him personally when he played in LA years ago. Very nice guy. Now, not that America's better than Canada, but I think it everybody can agree Canada is more socialized than U.S. And I think that might play into why I was talking to him online, and I was just saying like, well, what do you think about social credit score, and the UBI is going to be connected to these passes. He didn't know anything about that, right? And within 5 minutes, I'm not kidding, 5 minutes, he came to the conclusion, well, I think it's a good thing. And I'm like, and maybe it was my mistake to even go there, because I think maybe you just don't even interaction with these kind of people, but things are so far beyond what the average person can even conceive of. In addition to, there's that whole issue of, do you have any impulse of freedom? Right? Or do you just want to be a slave? Or you could say, do you want to take responsibility, or do you want to give your power away? Right? And I think that in some ways, there's some elements of so-called socialism that are a good thing. But ultimately, if the state has all the power, then you've given your power away. And they're definitely trying to, this is what they call the Cloward and Piven strategy, where you collapse a society to push people into a dystopian authoritarian government, because no sane person would automatically go from their comfortable lifestyle to a gulag life, right? So they're trying to collapse the system. But at the same time, there's a lot of people, they really don't want freedom.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe that was our mistake, is like, if we just get the information I'm laughing. If we just get the information out, the people will come to a realization. It's like, well, what do you think now? The people, the information's out there. Even the whole like COVID narrative,
Mm-hmm.
it's finally breaking. Your mic's kind of scratching a little bit.
Oh.
It's finally breaking what we knew a year and a half ago, right? Into the mainstream.
Yeah.
But did we even really need that? We didn't need that confirmation. A lot of the normies, they're like, what's your source? Are you an expert? Are you a scientist? Well, now, the information's freely available now. So, yeah. I think you could safely assume, even in a complete failure of what they're trying to do, they're going to capture a lot of people, and you are going to have smart cities.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in those cities, they were ultimately destined to be an NPC drone. And you and I weren't.
Did you see that story where a gentleman on Twitter complained that he was emailed by his fridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he showed a screenshot of that email, and he was very upset. Yeah, the email said that last week you opened your fridge 44 times. This is not eco-friendly. It has to get better than that. And he was so upset, and he said, what is this AI talking about? We have 4 children. And I never gave permission to email me. And yeah, but that is the first step. So now imagine the AI denies you to open that door.
Well, I think that it starts from knowing what's quote unquote on the board or the Masonic chessboard. Most, and it probably took me 10 or 20 years of looking every day into the darkest hole you can imagine to figure out. This is actually kind of a Virgo-esque thing. It's parsing and categorizing the information, right? And just trying to feel out the edges of the reality or what the framework is. Because I don't think you can make an informed choice or have an assessment of what's going on in this world without having some data points, you know? And the average person has no idea of what the mentality of the elite are, the so-called elite, right?
The self-appointed elite.
Yeah, they're all Chosenites. You know, whatever background they come from. And it's also informative, Judith, right? Israel, one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. They're having the most problems. So even the common Israeli, and there's Arab Israelis too, but let's say like the common Jewish person, you are a goyim cattle to the elite too.
Yeah.
So that tells you something, right? Because you have these different opinions of like, it's this kind of conspiracy, it's these people. Whatever it is, the people at the top of the pyramid, they don't even look at you as actually you're worth less than an animal, because the animal we could do something with, but you know, you're like a subhuman. So but the average person cannot even conceive of this, right? You gotta understand where this is coming from. That's like square one, right? So a lot of us, we understand this, or we have a feel for this of like, okay, of course there's a great reset. Of course reduce your carbon footprint. Well, you're made of carbon, so maybe we got to reduce you, right? And but it's interesting also, Judith, that it goes back to this Platonic priest class, or this archetype of the Atlantean scientist priest, that even so these kind of types, that they understand the plan, right? Which would be like an Aldous Huxley or Brzezinski type, right? They understand the plan, but even among the so-called elites in embassy circles, high financial people, they're taking the shot too. I know this for sure because I've talked to people. So that tells you something. In a way, people that have an open mind, that they want to know, your viewers, people that have been looking into the alternative information, they may not have the unlimited funds of some of these elites, but in a way, I don't know how to say this. I've never said this before. We're kind of Chosenites in our own way, because you may not have like unlimited funds, but your eyes are open. And that is very interesting, that there's people, some of the richest people in the world, they took the shot. So that's it. And these people, I heard of one case where there was one guy that he was even saying, like, why do you even hang out with that person? He didn't grow up like us. He didn't grow up in these circles, He took the shot. So there is a separation happening right now, you know,
Mm.
and who's going to be left standing, you know? So maybe the humble people with their eyes open will pass through. Okay. Because I can tell you, it ain't going to be nothing good if you go along with the mainstream agenda.
So I guess it is safe to say that disruptions will continue. Yeah, major disruptions. I see it coming in the financial world as well. How it exactly will play out, we will see.
You're going to see the earth changes really
Mhm.
accelerate. I took some notes if you want me to go through them.
Yeah, sure. Go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah,
So
volcano here in Canary Islands.
yeah. Well,
I
they've been talking about that for years, and now it's happening, right? So
Yeah, and do you know
yeah.
what I found interesting? When that, I mean, it's still spewing. It's not over. So, but when it started, I also read that the tsunami warning system at the East Coast was out of service, that
Well,
it had technical problems.
I think you could safely assume that it's gonna be many places, but the USA, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be
In
rough for
terms of earth
Mhm.
changes.
across the board. I mean, just the economic collapse alone would be devastating.
Mm.
And then, you know, as far as the gun issue, it cuts both ways because I think the government's been a little afraid to push certain things because there's so many. There's like 400 or 500 million guns. I think we have more than
More guns than
one gun
people.
per more guns than people here, right? But you got to think, Judith. These people, they are
They will also
unreasonable,
turn
and
on each other.
they have no discipline.
Mm.
You know, they have no discipline. So
Mm.
that could be problematic in the time we're moving into. But then also, that would be bad enough on its own. But then when you factor in the Earth changes, uh, I think the karma of U.S. will be cleansed in 2024, but there could be complete devastation, and then maybe towards the end of the decade, things will start to open up. I think we're about to hit the most restricted period. It's going to be maybe 24, 25, something like that. The middle of this decade is going to be pretty rough, and doesn't last forever. But that's the thing. A lot of us, I will admit to this. I've been in an apocalypse mindset for about 2 decades, so I had a long time. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I had the realization right before 9/11 of what's happening now 20 years ago, and it hit me like a cold chill.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
but I've had 20 years. I've had like 20 Christmases to think about this. I always thought like, and it was like after 9/11, I was like, this might be the last good Christmas. And I had like 20 more after that. So
Mm.
how can I complain, right? But the average person, they're not that self-aware, or they're reactive,
Mm.
or they're in the moment, but they're not that aware. It's like the fish in a fishbowl. They don't even know they're in a fishbowl, right? They're just looking for the little bits of fish food that you sprinkle. So it, they're I think it's helpful to be aware of what's going on in the world, but a lot of people aren't. But the benefits, I think, are showing themselves now,
Yeah,
where
and
people.
you can't prevent it by ignoring it. You know what a lot of new agers tell you? Oh, please don't bring it into the collective consciousness, and don't do that. Yeah, well, okay. I'm
Yeah,
joking.
don't look at the like just keep your head in the clouds.
Yeah. Don't look at the negative.
well,
No.
in a way, I
I'm not saying, look, there is a difference between I know that I'm standing at the abyss
Right.
or staring into it
Uh-huh.
until it stares back at you. You know what I mean? There is
Well,
there is a
right.
huge difference between that.
Well, I think the practicality is going to become very important going into next year. So
Yeah.
let me barrel through this. So, uh, I my I do readings with numerology. So numbers, the metaphysical study of numbers is my primary method. And there's a global year count. So it goes 1 to 9, and then it cycles back 1 to 9, right? So I was on your show before. 2020 was a 4 year. 4 is Aquarius Uranus energy, and we saw what happened in 2020. Went upside down, right? This year, 2021, right? 2 plus 2 plus 1 was a 5 year. Gemini energy, duality, splitting. It's opened and closed, right? The two sides, right? Um, oh, Gemini also rules mental illness, right? Yeah, and then we went through all of that on the past show. So we went 4, 5. So 2022 is going to be a 6 year, right? So what does that tell us? Well, 6, uh, you can connect to Venus energy. It's the
Mhm.
cosmic mother. This is actually my primary number. I'm a life path 6. So people out there, you can combine the full birthday and the month, the day, and the year. Or I guess only America does that. Everywhere else in the world does the day, the month, and the year, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
know.
more logical.
Yeah.
But you combine those and you'll get a number. And if you're a 6 life path 6 person, it's doubly for you. And my personal year count happens to be the same as a global year count. So next year is going to be, so what is 6? 6 is literally the number of family, so it's the close personal circles. So there's going to be a lot of things around relationships. And so the two signs ruled by Venus energy are Libra, right, the scales, and Taurus. And actually, we move into true node Taurus in the astrology next year. So I'm going to hit the numerology first, and then I'll reference
Okay.
the astrological after. So Libra issues, right? So Libra, it's like the mothering energy. It's the womb, it's family, it's home. So a lot of home issues. Uh, you could even be doing business from home, or things related to home, or things related to comforting things, food, cuisine, you know, Libra is also connected to kind of like fashion. So maybe even, whether you're involved in it as a business, or you just want to beautify your surroundings, that could be a thing. Because we're talking about trends, right? If you go along with the trend, uh, the higher aspect, it's beneficial.
Mm.
So Libra is also about relationships. If you know Libra people, the stereotype, they love socialization, parties, mixers, being out, art shows, those kind of things. So, and I do think that things are opening up now, because we were like very locked down before. I think things will open up, even if you have issues around passes and those kind of things. In general, people will be coming together again in physically. So Libra is about the scales, right? It's about balance, because the thing that a lot of people miss is Libra is the scales. It's about balance, because they're actually unbalanced people, right? The south node of, or the opposite node of Libra is Aries. So there's actually a lot of aggression behind Libra, but it just comes out in a diplomatic way, because the Libra way is not to get flustered or react, but it's like diplomatic argument or debate, right? That kind of thing. Because it's unseemly if you get openly angry, right? Like that, right? They're kind of like the cool, collected kind of like artist type on the surface. So, big thing about this number 6 is boundaries, and that has to do with relationships. So I know this very well. right? And
Mm,
and Libra has to do about advice too. The archetype of the number 6 is called the healer, the teacher, the counselor,
mm,
right? So there could be a lot of consultation or asking for advice this year. You may be asking for advice, or a lot of people may be coming to you. And especially for our kind of people, who I think on average, just knowing what's going on, may be islands of stability amongst the chaos of what's going on. So people may be coming to you for help, advice, could be monetary or just, giving comfort, those kinds of things. But it's about boundaries too, because you can only help people, or you're only as good as much as how stable you are, right? If you overextend, uh you're going to burn yourself out, or if you try to promise more than you can give, that also, it's a kind of a stress. So you have to balance your needs against the needs of others. Also, it has to do with idealism in your worldview. So I think there's going to be a lot of reassessment. We kind of talked about this before. There's going to be a lot of reassessment about how the world actually works versus whatever ideas you had in your head, especially for people that they really have no idea
mm.
about. They're given the corporate pop culture, um, how you say, the patriarchy, the sexism, all those things. When that's given to you by who? Starbucks and McDonald's? Revolution, I'm loving it, you know? And
Mm,
now when the whole bottom drops out of the economy,
mm,
you know, you could armchair say a lot of things, or you could even be marching in the streets, but I think a lot of people weren't ground down to absolute nothing economically yet. When the currency blows out and the banks start to have bank runs and those kind of things, it's going to shake a lot of people to the core.
mhm.
It's no longer the suburban activist. You're going to be in survival mode with the rest of everybody else. The days of avocado toast are coming to an end, the cheap avocado toast.
Enjoy
So
it while you can.
enjoy it while you can. So, and Libra is friends with everybody, right? That's the stereotype, right? So, but in trying to maintain certain relations, or associating with people, what kind of agreements you make, are you, or especially with family and romantic relationships, are you being a slave to others? Because there's always a balance, right? Of how much are you giving versus how much are you receiving. And then also, uh no matter what culture you come from, there's always expectations put on you by the family and the society. But, well, let's say, I'm American, but I'm coming from an East Asian Japanese background, right? So typically the Asians, the stereotype is the family. It's like, you'll be doctor, you'll be lawyer, right? Well, what if I'm an artist? What if I was born to make pyramids?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna, they just want the best for you, but they may not. They may have a cookie cutter idea of this is the path to success, when each individual has their own way, right? So that's a thing of, are you just trying to fulfill expectations? Because Libra is also a pleaser, right? And I'm connecting this to the year 6, because that 6 energy is ruled by Venus, and the two signs are Libra and Taurus, right? So Libra is the people pleaser, but then if you please everybody else and then you're not following what you need to do, then ultimately that's not going to work. And basically the message is, this is all going to come to a head in 2022, right? So it's sort of like the deeper questions about who you are, what you're meant to do, what your obligations are. Uh, so this will come up in facing family issues, which everybody has, right? And there's there can be no greater love and no greater hate than in your family, because no matter what you do, your family still your family,
Mm,
right? And then so that will also cross over into relationship and love issues. is guilt, fear, and control being used to drive that relationship, right? um you need to allow your true self to come out. This is a typical Libra issue, right? Is like, if you're friends with everybody trying to be accepted by everybody, are you really suppressing? Do you know who you are? Are you just living the image that other people are projecting onto you, right?
Mm.
um Now, the Venus energy, the six, it looks like a pregnant woman, right? So it's generative. Also, the color is green, which is like, the US greenback money. So it's actually a generative energy, right? So you could generate and manifest a lot of things next year, but you better do it from what were you born to do?
Mhm.
Not what the society put on you, not what the community put on you, not what your family put on you, but what is your true skill? What were you really born to do, right? And there's no better time than now, because the thing is that, just like 9/11, they've blown out the foundations. The twin towers of the World Trade Center are coming down. But in that implosion, in that destruction, the structure is actually open, and a tremendous amount of energy is being released, right? So there's many areas you could see where, say, like I talked about before, metaphysical readers, right? There is unlimited client pool right now, because guess what? The mainstream thinking is not answering the questions people have. Or
Mhm.
maybe they're at their wits' end and say, I don't know. I don't even believe in this stuff, but let's see what this reader has to say, right?
Mhm.
Same thing with the cryptocurrency. Uh, we're sort of in an in-between phase right now. It's kind of like a wildcat market where it's being more regulated, but the full regulations haven't come in yet. So again, they're imploding the system, right? And you could do 1,000% in one day. You could do 10x in one day if you know what you're doing, right? So there's a lot of young people out there that, some of them are involved in cryptocurrency, and their parents. Now, I think getting a proper education is important, but from the perspective of a young person, the parents are telling them, you really got to go to university. You got to go to higher education.
Yeah, and then you end up with a degree
That
that you can wear as a hat at
right,
your.
right. So number one is boring
Mm.
for the most part. The education is very dumbed down now compared to
Mhm.
it was decades ago. You're paying an insane amount of money, and the young people are like, well, okay, boomer. It doesn't even make sense to me. So there's these alternative, and we know that the cryptocurrency can be a trap. There's also the gaming, which is, I'm a boomer for the gaming and streaming world because I'm not really part of that generation. But let me tell you, Judith, there are people that are making like 10, 20,000 US a month gaming. So in a way, that's kind of dangerous too. In a way, it's cool. If I was a young person, I'm like, why? Why would I go to school? It's like, I'm playing video games and getting paid, right? But that could really just be like, oh, you're totally gone. You're totally in the matrix, right?
Yeah. Mm.
Right. I think Max Kaiser called it the casino gulag economy, where
Mm.
people gotta like dance like a monkey on live streams, and it never ends. Because I have DJ friends that, when the lockdown started, the gigs were over, right? The physical gigs. And so if you were a popular DJ, which is like, the top, it's a small percentage, but you could make money doing streams, but it's never ending. It's kind of like, I kind of feel like the power relationship is like these, because you're totally replaceable at that point. What's the difference between one DJ and then that guy falls out and you just quickly replaced, and then you have to be on it. You have to be streaming, like, at least a couple times a week. And it's not something I would want to do. But the thing is, the whole landscape is changing, right? So, um, whatever people think about it, there are these movements where, in this economic implosion, there's a lot of new things that are emerging, and you could capture this energy depending on what sectors or areas that you're in. So it's not like it's all bad. In fact, there's some amount of freedom, but you cannot be in the mindset of we're going back to 2019. You gotta be you gotta be in the mindset of like that world is done. And like where can I get traction? Where's the movement? And how can I best excel? Don't just try to do what other people are doing, but see where your own core beliefs, talents, and strengths align with what's going on today, right? Um, so it's a time of healing also, because the six is the healer, the teacher, the counselor. It's time to talk it out, even debate, because Libra rules the courts, right? It's like the judge too. So, but it's a kind of a debate where it's not angry debate. It's more intellectual debate, right? Keep it cool. Don't get too aggravated, but you know, be that kind of like legal style debate. Um, it's time for advice and consultation. So again, I've said it multiple times on other shows, but I think this is a great time for readers because a lot of people will be, and think about it, through the lockdowns, a lot of people were going through a reassessment of where they are and where they're going. Again, this economic shift is going to hit people to another level where, again, the whole question is about career. And then I don't know how it is in Germany, or some of the, your viewers are from all over the world. But in US, I personally know a number of people who are quitting their jobs right now because of what? The mandates, right? And but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I've done readings for some of these people, and one person in particular had very strong business numbers. I mean, basically their path is to become their own business person, but they're working for a corporation now. So it's scary sometimes to leave the stability of what you know. But if you're born to really try your hand at your own business, you'll never do it holding the hand of the corporation. Sometimes you got to get kicked out, and sometimes that's the best thing that could happen, right? It's almost like what happened to me, right?
Yeah.
To shift, I had to be forced to shift because
Yeah,
I would
here.
be making pyramids into infinity, right? So,
Yeah, here
yeah.
in France, yeah, a lot of healthcare workers will go.
Mm-hmm.
And for some hospitals, it's yeah, it's a real challenge, because let's say 200, 300 of your personnel is gone starting with tomorrow. That's a lot.
Yep. Well, the mainstream hospital is probably the last place you want to be right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you may not come out. You could go in with a common cold, and you may not come out of the hospital. But in any case, uh, Libra is about diplomacy, right? So be diplomatic. Um, our kind of people have been looking, or like say truthers have been looking at the world as it is for a long time, but maybe don't try to hammer people with the truth. Just be diplomatic about it, right? Uh, people may rely on you. It's about responsibilities, but don't overcommit, right? Like I was saying, take time to nurture yourself. Because Libra is a kind of a sign of leisure, also. so but the thing is, and some of the things I'm saying may seem contradictory, but Libra is a contradictory sign. That's why Libra, the higher aspect of Libra is true balance, because often their positions are unbalanced, right? Be the wise parent, the wise healer. The sixth energy, this Libra energy, is a sign of beginnings and ends of relationships. But you could see new partnerships, could be romantic, could be any kind of partnership, could be business partnerships. New romances could happen. Spend time in your personal circles. Again, cosmic mother, right? the six, the Venus energy. It's about the family, but it could be just like close personal circles, close friends. uh, you might see marriage or divorces happening at this time, right? All these kind of like, it's again relations, interpersonal relations. Uh, you might see people getting pregnant, children, cosmic mother, right? Um,
Or not.
no, or not, you know. Uh, so beautify your living space. You may even personally feel like it's time for a complete makeover, right? Um, 2022 will be a time of celebrations, reunions, and lost connections may come back. Again, things around the home, cooking, gardening. You know, Libra is a sign of art, music, beauty. So any of those things that you could like add to, you know, it's an interesting thing because like when I think about my pyramids, just how it looks is informative, or at least I can get a read, of it. And I just make my pyramids the way that I like it. But it says something that many people, or let's say there are people in their field that I respect, that when they had an experience with my pyramid or they see my pyramids, they say that they like it. But I think that where they're coming from, it's a double confirmation for me. Like Emily Moyer, right? My lab, MK Ultra, the interdimensional portals, highly aware of these energies. And then she said it in a simple way, but for her to enjoy my pyramids, it's a good sign for me, right? So that kind of Libra energy, even if it's a simple thing of how you arrange your space, the kind of like the interior design, maybe get some new sheets for the bed, redo something. It's a simple thing, but actually beauty has a value in it. And I think there's many things in our culture that have been made ugly, and it's a dehumanization, it's a humiliation ritual, but ugly things just do not have a good energy. I don't know how else to say it, but that's why I brought up the pyramids. It's like I try to cut a balance between the energetics where you could physically muscle test it or douse it, and you could say, yes, this has a high etheric energy, but I try to balance that against the look or the aesthetics, right? I think there's an overlap between the two, and I could technically make a pyramid that's extremely strong, but it would just look like flat, like gray, like one color. That doesn't interest me. It has to be kind of like halfway in between, where it has enough energy to a certain level, but I want it to look beautiful too, right? So
Mhm.
maybe carry this over into your personal space of make your life beautiful, your surroundings beautiful, because that is inspiring, right? So um yes, so music and art, maybe incorporate some of that. And I went to Austin to play a party that Emily Moore, she's doing a series, like a monthly party now. And I've been so called nose to the grindstone, just like working my ass off, that when I was putting my set together, and you can't see them, but they're right behind the camera. I had like two studio monitor speakers, and I was like, hey, you know what? This is kind of fun. I haven't had fun in such a long time, Judith. So, you know what? We need that. And actually, in the depression of the 1930s, uh, movies, cinema, and shows were a big thing because people were in such a
Mhm.
depressed economic state. That was actually a high time of entertainment. Why? Because they needed to set off the dreary reality of the economics against some entertainment to keep them uplifted, right? So it's a time of creative inspiration and friends, family, and community. The 6 year, and that makes sense, right? If we're having an economic collapse, you know, like this year and last year, we were kind of like locked down.
Mhm.
But I think, what I've seen in some developing countries, like been to Brazil many times, they've survived many economic collapses because they have extended family networks and
Yeah.
strong social ties. And I think just by necessity, people will be forced to reach out for help and have social connections, right? You
Mm.
in this in an economic collapse of this scale, you cannot survive as an individual, you know. And this is a kind of like a thing of East and West also, or let's say like Yin and Yang cultures, is that the power of the West was that it was a like an initiator. It's kind of like that Mars Aries energy of it really pushing innovation, but it can also be aggressive domination, right? But when you're in a time of collapse, instead of pushing the advancement of the culture instead of collapse phase, this kind of individualism is it's actually works against you. You need to work together as a group or family or community, because on your own, I don't think, I'll say this, it's much more difficult to survive if you're in an individualist mindset, you know.
Mhm.
And then also, um because of this kind of like this Venus energy, the 6 year of 2022. And then notice it's 222, right? Just
Yeah.
like the balance of the scales, right? Um, you could see some lawsuits and court activity in people's lives, but in general. And then think about what's going on with the whole Trump,
Mhm. Mhm.
the vote rigging and those kind of things. Even though I think that that's being brought out like as a card of the elites of the system, because they've kind of kept it on the back burner all this time, and now they're going to bring it out for maximum chaos, right?
Mm.
And then also the cosmic mother could also be used, because see, there's always like a higher and lower aspect, so they could bring in, notice like we haven't heard about greta Greta
Yeah, yeah.
Thunberg, and
Yeah,
now she's with the oil on her face or whatever, the black goo. We haven't heard of her, and then now she's coming out again.
yeah, but
Cosmic
I see
Mhm.
that in general, that the narrative is shifting towards climate.
Well, instead of COVID lockdowns, maybe we'll have like climate
Oh
lockdowns, right?
yeah.
But they, so the energy of the archetype of the cosmic mother will be in the forefront of people's minds. So what do? Point to the green agenda, or Mother Earth's in trouble, and all these things, so you could see that narrative kick up, right? So I was saying, so that's the numerological view, and I was saying the 6 year is ruled by Venus energy. Now the two signs, a lot of things I was talking about were mm, Libra focused, but Taurus is also uh, Venus energy. And guess what? We've been in true node Gemini since May of 2020. So in a person's individual natal chart, astrological natal chart, there's aspect called the lunar nodes or the moon nodes. Some people say the head and the tail of the dragon. So
Mm.
in the metaphysical thinking, the north node is what you're supposed to be focused on, or the trend you're supposed to be focused on in this lifetime. The south node are patterns from so-called past life or some other reality, some other timeline, right? So, but this is true for the planet as a whole. There's a true node for like, I think it's like 18 months. Every 18 months it switches. So we're going from true node Gemini into true node Taurus, right? So that this Gemini energy has been very, it's formless because it's mercurial, right?
Mm.
Things have been open and closed, right? And there's, from week to week, you go to a store, they have one set of rules. The next week, 1 week you could eat inside, next week you can't. Now there's chairs outside, and it's like you have to be completely adaptable, right? But now we're going into a fixed phase, because Taurus is a fixed sign, right? So basically, things have been kind of in the air, and then next year it's going to be locked in, and we're going to
Mhm.
be in a certain mode uh, from January 2022 to July 2023. So Taurus, what is that about? Well, the bull of Wall Street, right? There's two signs that rule economics: is Capricorn and Taurus, right? They literally have a statue of a bull in New York and Wall Street. So Taurus is about practicality, material issues, right? Economic collapse, right? Shortages, economy, supply chain, currency shifts. But Taurus is an earth sign. So it could also mean body, maybe changes in the body, issues around the body. Think about the shots, right? So maybe the effects will really start showing
Mm-hmm.
from January 2022 forward, right? Makes sense. Also, Earth changes. So, because the Earth sign could literally mean issues around the planet Earth, the physical planet Earth. So you align that along with the fact that we've been in this transit of the Uranus and Taurus, which could literally mean Earth changes. I think that, and we're already starting to see that with the Canary Islands, and I've never heard of earthquakes in Australia. There was an earthquake in Melbourne,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
get
there was
yeah,
in 2010 or 11
10.
Christchurch. You remember that?
Oh yeah,
There was a
yeah,
heavy
yeah.
earthquake.
New Zealand has had a lot of earthquakes, but
Mm.
Australia,
Mm.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
there've been.
okay, correct. That's New Zealand, but it's the same
Yeah,
area.
I'm sure that they've had some before, but I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in my consciousness that, oh, Australia's an earthquake prone region,
No.
right?
Mm.
So we're in a time of great change across the board, but Uranus and Taurus, you could literally read as, so that's until 2026 that transit's happening. You could literally read it as Earth changes, and now the true notice has shifted into Taurus. So that's like double. There's gonna be things around the physical planet Earth. Now there's always the opposite node, right? Or the opposite sign. So if we're true node Taurus, what's the south node or the opposite node? And it's Scorpio, right?
Mhm.
So again, Taurus would be like the practical. Scorpio's like the occult, right? So people are going to have to focus on what can we practically do in this time, right? And it's interesting too because I have that energy in myself. You could see my energy tools, or maybe in the way my focus and the way I've talked about things. I have my foot deep in the occult, but I prefer to say, okay, I love it. That's very interesting. But practically now, how do we use this understanding, right? With
Mhm.
the energy tool, right? Um, but also, South Node Scorpio would mean I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of scandals, secrets, deep occult issues come out in the news. And, this is all going to align with the collapse of USA too, because the Pluto return, the end date of USA as we knew it, USA is 50 states, is February 2022. And it's a so-called conspiracy, but it's also the karma of US as it's been set up, that there's just so much dirt that has been done.
Oh yeah.
And it'll be interesting what they bring out. The whole Biden thing is, it's like, that's a humiliation ritual. you know
Yeah.
um
Yeah, yeah. Trump was the clown before the big show. Yeah, the big
right.
show of the big C. And yeah, and now we have a humiliation ritual. Yeah, you're
Well,
right.
the word is that the Biden or the clone, whoever's up there, is like, he's soiling himself daily. So I really wouldn't want to be the Secret Service, because your whole job is probably wiping the clones behind at this time. But some last things about the south node Scorpio. So north node would be Taurus, south node Scorpio. uh Scorpio is about occultism or hidden things. So there may be some, people that are into the whole mud flood Tartaria subject
Mhm.
or lost civilizations. We may see some things come out because this totally aligns with the setup that's coming next year. So for forgotten memories, the unresolved past will come up, and you know, it's it's probably going to be what most people would call complete chaos. But at the same time, I myself have seen that many people in our our kind of people are actually in this background of chaos, are about to start, or they already have businesses and movements in action that are going to take people to the next level. Like when I was in Austin, Emily Moyer and her partner, they just got a new office. She's doing a ton of podcasts. And so you would think in this time that's so unstable that it would be difficult to start something. But
Mhm.
actually, if you're in the right mindset, and also a lot of us have been kind of like marinating and just kind of like building a foundation. Maybe we didn't think about it that way, but you were actually building a foundation for what's about to come. And so I see a lot of people about to take a big step forward
Mhm.
where they're going to be able to help a lot of people, as a service, you know, helping clients, or maybe just whatever you're doing individually has a wider reach, which is probably why, like I said, I wasn't the only one that got hit pretty hard around the beginning of this year as far as health crisis. And beyond that, I would say that we brought it up in your show before, but um, the Great American Eclipse that's coming in 2024,
Mhm.
save this video because when
Save this video.
April 2024 comes, I wouldn't be surprised if I think it's not all going to happen in one day, but you're going to just see the level and frequency of earth changes and these chaotic events really start to increase. And then 2024, because X marks the spot, we showed the map in a previous show that in 2017 there was a great American eclipse that entered. it,
Mhm.
it only crossed US. It didn't even hit Mexico or Canada, I think. It might have come out like on the far end, maybe touched another country, but it was basically through US. And I think it entered through Oregon and it exited through the Carolinas. And that was in 2017. Then it's like America entered the underworld. That was basically the Trump era. Trump started the deep psychological kind of like introspection, right? Because he's so polarizing. It brought up everything that was already there to the surface, the whole polarization. And then America comes out of this in 2024, April 2024, but it literally makes an X. It crosses the Midwest, which is a prime area of they call the New Madrid Fault, which can produce like 9.0 earthquakes. So I wouldn't be surprised if America's like the whole process that we've been going through here in US, but it's being mirrored in many ways through countries throughout the world. But specifically for Americans and people in US, it, it could be the end of this great change. But when people wake up after whatever happens after that eclipse, the it the landscape may be completely leveled. Like the karma is cleansed, but you got to start from zero now.
Mhm.
And interestingly, so if we go 2022 is a 6, 2023 is a 7, so 2024 the global year count is 8, right? 8 is that Saturn energy, the Saturn Capricorn energy, and that is when the karma comes due. So I think a lot of what we're in right now it's gonna come into conclusion around that 2024, 2025 time. That, you know, the karmic payout is gonna come at that time. And think about US. There's a lot of karma to pay for, you know. I mean, we know that countries have been set up to do certain things by the hidden hand, right? But
Yeah.
above board, you know, whatever, even if that is the case, things were still done, and it needs to be resolved, right? Energetically and otherwise.
Mm.
So, and it's funny because I mentioned this on some shows, and some people don't like that when I said that. And
No, I totally understand. Yeah, of
and they
course.
said, well, did we as individual American citizens agree to this?
Oh my goodness, get over
No,
yourself.
no. But guess what? Even I'm culpable, because if you were living in within that state, you're still culpable at some level. Or let's just say that it's a karmic blowback. Just like we're getting all, you know, we're getting all these masses, just like what happened in Europe, right? We're having these. It's like the repeat of the fall of the Roman Empire.
Mm.
We're having these like blocks of 20,000 migrants come up against the border now, and the whole color revolution with, you know, that whole Biden thing was basically a color revolution. Look what the U.S. has done with that whole British model of it. We collapsed
Empire.
so much. We played the empire game, and we've collapsed so many states overseas. Like, you know, look at Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, look at the all the
Chile,
exactly. So,
Iran.
you know, take your pick. So now all those games that were played, the exact same tactics are being used here. It's just that so many people, they enjoy the benefits of that, but then they don't understand how America was able to maintain its position for so long,
Mm.
right? So it's just it's kind of maddening in a way, Judith, because it's like you say some of these words like color revolution, it goes whoop, and it goes right up whoop boop. It's like people don't even know what you're talking about, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
for
we
people,
also,
yeah,
sorry, we also still have Neptune in Pisces until 2026.
delusional. People are
Yeah,
delusional.
exactly. Delusional. It also represents collective insanity and manipulation, and it also speaks to the entire yeah, salvation complex. Do as we say, we keep you safe.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Well, you know, also,
only if you follow our
mhm.
advice.
Well, you know, the power of manifestation is rising daily,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the dreamer, right? Because it's actually one of the things I've been covering is the realm of radionics, which is basically, you know, it's a homeopathic holographic influence, right? Some people would call it magic, but you only call it magic if you don't if you
Understand the mechanics.
if you don't understand it, because,
Yeah.
you know, if you know you can do it, you just wave your hand and you're like, why would I be surprised? Because that's how it works. But it's very interesting because a number of artists have made comments about so-called magic, and Alan Moore, the comic book writer, but he's actually a magus, because if you look at him, he looks like Gandalf, right? He's like a
Mm.
long white beard, has a lot of occult themes in his works. But he said in the past, uh, magic was called the art, but I take that literally.
Mm.
That art is magic, and vice versa. So I think that the time we're living in, you know, they say the frequency is rising, right? And I've seen it literally that people are being able to manifest, because that's what I work with every day, and I work with these tools and I consult with people, and I've seen that it's probably not open to everybody. It's like more your kind of viewers or people that have a mind in interest in these areas. They probably have a natural capability of manifestation. But uh, I'm just bringing this up because of the whole Neptune and Pisces. You know, the downside is people could be not realistic and totally delusional, but it's a high time of the dreamer, right? Which can be used in a positive sense to create things. And the thing is that uh, are you fulfilling what you were born to do, or are you being harvested and you being shuttled into these predetermined categories? Which kind of goes back to the whole thing I was saying about the year 6 for 2022. Are you, it's a balance, but are you purely serving the dreams and the programs of other people, or are you following what you were born to do? It's a balance because you cannot 100% just serve your own needs. But there's a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, they're just doing things to please others. And especially in this time, does that even make sense? What is normal now? There is no normal.
Mm.
So, yeah, and
Any ideas on the alien agenda? Is there something
oh,
surprising?
I was gonna ask you because I haven't been able to watch all your shows, but you were
Yeah.
one of the first that I saw bringing up this issue. Is there a change in management? And this meme has been rising, Judith, and I think there's something to it. So,
Mm.
in fact, the so-called the whole idea, the reptoids and these bloodlines,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we may be longing for those days when whatever new management really comes in full force.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Right?
I I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. I have to say I hate to give dates.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because you really can bang your head on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And but 2022, of course, for some people, others say 2024. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really care, but allegedly the Anunnaki are coming back.
Well, if we don't see them in physical form,
Mm.
they are already coming back in the trends. Because
Mm-hmm.
it may come back in a way that we're not expecting. It may come back through the shots. It may come back through the technology,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. I was actually talking to Rock Castaldo the other day, and I was telling him, you've had Gary Wayne on before,
Yeah.
right? And I was cracking up because I heard Gary in a recent interview, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, the uh, the Nephilim race, they were like, I don't know what you call it. They were bisexual or transgender and all this kind of stuff." I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. So I was telling Ron, he goes, "Yep." I was like, well, by that measure, we are going back to the beginning because what was first shall be last, right? So what did you have in the beginning, and what are we having now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not making a judgment on what's happening. I'm just saying, look at the trends and compare it to the mythology of what they said was at the beginning, or
Mm-hmm.
like right before the flood, right? We seem to be repeating those patterns. So even if we don't see physical giants, this these archetypal signs and symbols are coming back again. Even things like what I'm involved in as far as the numerology, right? You're seeing a lot of the so-called gematria, which is the Kabbalistic numerology.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming more and more popular because as far as I know, among the reading systems, probably tarot and astrology are much more popular than the numerology. But you're
Yeah.
starting to see the numerology grow. Number one, just because it's the trend of metaphysics is rising, but I'm specifically seeing it in things like cryptocurrency. So that's very interesting because cryptocurrency is an Aquarian market, or it's an Aquarian dominated concept. And Aquarius rules not only technology, but it rules metaphysics too.
Mm.
And you're seeing this as far as people paying attention to YouTubers, people on Twitter that are using gematria along with astrology and other esoteric reading systems to predict market moves. Because
Mm.
guess what? Cryptocurrency people do not care where this information is coming from as long as it's correct and they make money from it, right?
Mm.
So, but I'm seeing a lot of the gematria rising, and I bring that up because, just like Gary Wayne says, the occult numerology, it supposedly came from the gods with a little g. It's the one of the seven sacred sciences handed to man by the fallen angels, right?
Mhm.
So in that way, again, are we seeing giants with our physical eyes? No, but archetypally, we're coming back to these trends again, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there is, and again, you could say that AI is another way this is coming out because there is a direct. You don't even have to make a like a stretch or an exaggeration. There is a direct connection between the Kabbalah, the Gematria, the Bible codes, ciphers in World War II, like the cryptography, right?
mm,
And artificial intelligence, because the the study of ciphers and cryptology directly led to the invention of computers.
yeah.
So, and that comes from, hundreds of thousands of hours of rabbis looking at Kabbalistic Bible codes in Gematria, forwards and backwards, the numbers and this and that, which is part of the Saturn matrix, right? Which
Mm,
leads to AI. I mean, that's just history. But if you tell that to people, either they'll totally reject it or it'll just blow their mind, right? So,
yeah.
so are we seeing the gods yet in physical form? No. But everybody has one of these black mirrors, which is what? It's going back to Babylon,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this short sci-fi movie called Raqqa?
No. Tell me about it.
It's with Sigourney Weaver. It's,
Okay.
I guess, only like 20 minutes long, and
Okay.
you can see it on YouTube.
Okay.
uh, and I'm not saying it's coming 2022,
Mm-hmm.
2024, but I have a strong feeling we will see a similar situation where
Mm-hmm.
um, an alien race is really literally, physically taking slaves here.
Well, most of these people are gone anyway, Judith.
Mhm.
like I said, I you know I don't even know if I call it disappointing, but it's just it's maybe it's a realization, and it's difficult to watch people that I've talked to take the shot.
Mm,
But then I think back to I was and this is like face to face. I would bring up certain things. I'm like how could you do? No, this is before the shots.
mm,
Um, well, I don't think he watches this show, so I'll give you the example, okay? But I'm into all kinds of weird stuff. So I had I had brought up this lady that was like a so-called ET contactee,
mhm,
you know, and he was an old Coast to Coast Art Bell fan, which was one of the original radio shows I think it started in the '90s that covered a lot of these kind of like fringe topics.
mhm,
But I told him this this girl's like, not only is she out there, but she's energetically one of the worst cases I'd ever seen. Like, I don't even consider her human no more, right?
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
invited her to his, studio, his house, and they had a show. He has a show online, right? I'm like, dude, you let her in your house? You are nuts, right? But now, and he did this multiple times. I think maybe for views or something. I don't know. The shows didn't even get that many views, but he thought it was a hot topic, you know, and he took the shot. And
Mm.
now I understand. He didn't. It's not that he's a bad person, but he really didn't understand what I was saying. He really didn't understand the implications of having that kind of close. It's fine to interview anybody, but when you do certain things, it's like you let the vampire in your house. You are opening certain levels of agreement that you better be ready for.
Mm.
And the thing is that I assumed that he had the understanding and he didn't, and that's why he took the shot. He's
Mhm.
not a bad person,
No.
but it's just that that's 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 what I'm seeing, and that's you're bringing up. Well, if the Space Brothers come, they're going to be taking slaves. Guess what, Judith? A lot of these people, they're set up. They are born to be a slave.
Mm.
Maybe in some future incarnation, some other timeline, they have a more independent streak. But a lot of these people, they're too scared to, own their power or uh, take responsibility.
Mm.
But guess what? Your viewers and a lot of people like us, we ain't got time for that. And guess what? Even if they put us in shackles and they beamed us up, they still don't have our free will.
No.
That's what they really want. They want
Mm.
you to own your position as a slave and say I am a slave.
Yeah,
But guess what?
exactly. Mm.
For whatever reason, a lot of us that we don't have the slave gene turned on 110%, and we're very
Yeah.
stubborn. We're stubborn people.
I'm not
So
going to bow to anyone.
mhm,
No,
yeah.
sorry, ain't gonna happen. I'm not bowing down.
And there's a lot of traditions, like in like the Santeria in
Mm.
Brazil. They have like they call candomblé or umbanda, and it's coming from Africa, right?
Mhm.
And it's a tradition where you give offerings to the saints,
Mhm.
right? And it's always been done. And I think maybe there might be a way to do it that's it's fine. But I see a lot of times too that the people are giving their power away, or they're
Mhm.
using the middleman to get what they want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in so uh maybe in the next year, which is that Libra trend of balancing, right? People are going to have to figure out what is a fair and balanced way to do things, because
Yeah.
I brought up the Santeria thing because there's many different ways, worldviews, and I respect it. But like my times in Brazil, I never participated in those kind of things. Number one, it's not my tradition, but
Mm.
just for me, from my experience, uh, I'm just not oriented that way, you know.
Mm. Yeah,
Um, uh,
mm-mm. I
but
wouldn't do
you know what
that
I'm talking
either.
about, because
Yeah.
you are married to an African, right? So
Mm.
you must be somewhat aware of,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
maybe
sure. Yeah.
maybe I don't know exactly what the quote unquote right way is, or maybe traditions change too, because as I understand it, the further back you go, these so quote unquote gods or saints, they were known to be archetypes, right?
Yeah.
So and a lot of times you need a physical representation to solidify in your mind, fire, water, air, earth, or whatever. But then as time went on, the consciousness fell, and then people started worshiping these things as gods instead of just like
Yeah.
forces of nature and these kind of things. But I'm just seeing that in this time of chaos, there's a lot of people looking for stability, and just understand we are in the time of cults and
Yeah.
cult leaders. The QAnon was a cult, right? We have many cults.
Oh,
Um,
they are still going strong.
yeah, and another thing I see in the New Age community is the whole ascension thing, and the Archangel Michael, overlaps with space brothers. Number one, I feel like it's giving your power away, but it could be true what you're saying. It's not going to be a conceptual or energetic thing about are you taking responsibility? Are you trying to hang on to it's the same thing, right? Are you hanging on to the hand of Big Daddy government? Are you hanging on the hand of the Space Brothers? Right?
Mm.
It may become a physical reality that people are going to be presented with this choice, which is again a thing of boundaries too. That's a thing of if it happens next year, the whole thing with that 6 year is heavily about boundaries, about what are you agreeing to, what are you committing to, um, and again there is a balance
Here's my line in the sand.
because we have our needs, and then we do
Mm.
live among people, so it can't be all one or the other, but it
Mm.
has to be done in a balanced way.
Yeah. What I found also interesting that just recently they came out with a new TV show.
Uh-huh.
I guess there are only like 4 or 5 episodes out. It's called Why the Last Man.
Oh,
Have you heard of it?
no, but that
Mm.
sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, it all male mammals drop dead. It starts
Uh-huh.
with cats, dogs, rats, mice, and then
Yeah.
one fine day, um, all male humans drop dead
Well,
within an hour, and yeah, and
well,
then
if you
one survives.
oh,
And let's put it this way, a handful survives, but the story revolves mainly around one particular guy. Yeah, and I'm
well, it's not a joke to say if you were to put the unvaccinated sperm on the blockchain, it could be worth something, Judith. Because I think as time goes on, reproduction is going to become difficult for a lot of people. So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Look what I have here.
Oh yeah.
The Russian blue
I
is
I I, I don't know if you noticed, but I I did a quick wardrobe change before we started, so I had to represent the Doge, right?
yeah.
But I did an article on my Patreon not too long ago about it. There could be an occult significance to the dog coins are some of the strongest meme coins in the cryptocurrency because Sirius is the dog star,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did a thing about that, but it just goes to show you that the whole world is like a cartoon holographic construct, and even something as seemingly as silly as the Doge meme, the Shiba Inu, right?
Yeah.
Why is it that you can connect it to all these occult themes? Well, must be something. In Japan, um, we have these. I don't know if you've seen. They're. I think originally they're lions, but in Japan they call Koma Inu or the guardian dogs, and they'll have typically two. They have them in China too, China and
And
Korea.
in Thailand as well, in front
Yeah,
of the
well,
temple.
it comes. I think it comes from Middle East or like Babylon, Persia, right? Originally they're probably lions, but by the time it reached Japan, they didn't have any lions, so they started to kind of like put their artistic license, kind of like freedom on it, and they became like dogs because they call Koma Inus. literally dogs, so guardian dogs, but they'll have like two of these sculptures or statues in front of the temple, and one has the mouth open and one has it closed, and it's Alpha Omega, and one of them has the like a cone or a horn on the top of the head, and one of them doesn't. This is Enki and Enlil,
Mhm.
right? And then Sirius the dog star, and then Dogecoin, and now there's a bunch of other ones, Shiba Inu or whatever. They found, you probably heard this, but they found doing research at the SRI, Stanford Research Institute, that among all the symbols, phrases, words, those kinds of things that stuck in people's minds or had the greatest influence, they were always like Masonic or occult symbology.
Mhm.
Because for whatever reason, it might have some kind of energetic significance, but also they're just symbols that have been around for, thousands, tens of thousands of years. So maybe it's it's not chance that Dogecoin became so powerful.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, the main subject,
Uh-huh.
pushing the limits, disruption here and there, that subject remains even next year.
Well, well,
Uh,
we're in the age, age of Aquarius is, the archetype of Lucifer, Prometheus, that is Aquarius.
yeah.
But
And
the, you have to question, because it's also progressivism, right? It's like the never-ending revolution. But what are we progressing towards? That's what people aren't questioning, or they're not even, a lot of people, they're not even aware of it. They just think technology and progress is a good thing. But part of the Luciferian or Promethean mindset is the separation between man and nature, or the domination of the ego. So and it's a balance, right? Because we do
mm,
need progress. Or I think those cavemen back then, they probably did benefit from making fire. Right? Because the Promethean fire, it's nice to cook your food, or you have fire to heat, to like warm yourself. But past a certain point, you know, there is, if you separate yourself from nature, or you're trying to dominate, right? Even the terms people use, biohacking. Well,
mm,
why are you talking about hacking? It's like you're finding a shortcut, or you're trying to subvert nature rather than working with nature, right?
exactly.
Um, and I asked this question before. Why is it that the planets, or these archetypes, they are the gods, and it's like the gods blew themselves up and we're living in their remains? And that is the story of Enki, Lucifer, Prometheus, is that had the superior intelligence, but probably atomized himself, right? Where you just, you know, one route would be the AI. You just totally atomize yourself, right?
Mm,
Or you blow your brains out on the DMT, and you totally just like lose it, right?
mm.
So, but we're coming to that 0 point, no matter what tradition you're coming from.
You know what? I think a lot of people will have a harsh awakening once there is no longer, space to ignore how powerful the AI really is. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you can no longer open your fridge because the AI has
Right.
decided it's not eco-friendly. So until next
Well,
week,
Judith,
it
I'm
doesn't
gonna be in
open.
trouble.
Or
I'm gonna be in
your,
I'm
or
gonna be in
your,
trouble, because they're gonna tell me you already had a couple tacos. You can't have any more this week. I'm like, oh
yeah,
no.
or yeah, there's no water
Uh-huh.
coming out of your shower because the
Right.
AI has decided you already used your ration of hot water this week.
Well, one thing, because I've been on a couple shows recently, and I was saying that I'm winding my shop down. So yeah, that's another thing. If people are interested in reading or energy tools, I said this, before I had my health crisis. I just thought I would be able to time it out and control the way I wind it down. But it looks like probably maybe by the end of this year, I might close my shop. So if anybody's interested, akaida.com. But yeah, I think that I lost my train of thought. But oh yeah, what was it? I can't even remember, Judith. That's where I am these days. It's like I just got the
haven't seen your moment.
I just got my promo out there. But yeah, I think that it's it's if you're interested in new things, it's exciting because it's like there are certain restrictions, but at the same time the old structure is being blown out, so there's a lot of spaces to move into. Oh, I remember what it was. It was about relocation. So and there's a lot of fear. some some of it is warranted. There's a lot of fear around the amount of control and the lockdown. I mean, literally, there's people being beaten in the streets right now, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I was gonna say is that there will be areas there's going to be areas that are going to be more locked down, and there's going to be areas that are more open. So I think that you may want to, for people that have been thinking about relocation, number one, look into the astrocartography, right? You can look at it for free online. I'll send you the link. And of course, there's even, you can click on the different cities and locations, and it'll get a quick description of the general influences in that area. And then, if you're serious, I would go to a professional reader that handles astrocartography. So you could kind of see where might be better for you to move. Because even in an area because there's the general background for everybody in a location, economically, socially, so forth. Like if you go to southern countries, typically it's going to be a little more relaxed. But say if you're in Brazil right now, I mean, if you think the economy is tough in the northern countries, go to Brazil, because they're like a developing country and the whole economy's been knocked out. But if you had good lines there, it could, you could be, for everybody else, it might be difficult. But if your lines that go through that area are good, you could be, it could be very good for you. So that's one is there will be areas that'll be I'll say this, the pressure, the most extreme pressure is being placed on the Western countries.
Yeah.
Why? Because they need to break down the West because if you break down the Western countries, there's not a lot that the other, the people have had the most leeway to speak out in the West. Because if you're at a subsistence level, you're just trying to survive, right? You don't have as much time to focus on the more political thinking, right? Another thing is, it's very interesting, but in Asia, that's another place where people may not think about as, free, because there's a lot of social rules. But guess what? You can look at some of the Asian countries, not really China, but say like Japan, right? Kind of very silent and off the map as far as the whole lockdowns. In fact, they pulled a lot of the shots, right? In the Great Reset book, Klaus Schwab's book, he says they're not really that concerned about China and Japan. He mentioned specifically China and Japan because he says those people are already order followers. But if you were a Westerner that had good lines in some of those areas in Asia,
Mm.
That might be a good place to kind of like sit out this time of chaos, because I think that depending on the country, not really mainland China, but maybe some of the other areas in Asia, there's not there. I think there's going to be less pressure as far as lockdown and those kind of things. You know, like Singapore is one that no, I wouldn't go there. Mainland China, probably not there. But I think that as far as the pressure of really, um, you know, you the people like us, we want to live as freely as possible, right? So maybe in Japan they have their Japanese social rules, but you may be able to in that space if you can fit, right? If your personality can fit, maybe if you check with the astrocartography, you have good lines. That might be a great place to go, you know?
Yeah, I will definitely
Yeah.
check that out, but I tell you what, if I have great lines in Afghanistan, I will not go there.
I heard Taliban's going to open a water park. I don't know if you saw that. They had the paddle boats.
Yeah, with the swans and their machine
Yeah,
guns. Yeah,
yeah.
they were
So
paddling around in swan boats. Yeah,
yeah.
and but not only machine guns. I don't know, something more severe. I forgot the term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other areas we talked about in your shows before is global south from 2024
Mm,
is going to be more prosperous in general. I'm sure you're still going to have your problems, but that's what the predictive systems say.
yeah.
And you know, for US, we talked about before, Texas will probably be one of the most stable areas, but
Florida, maybe.
Florida, because they've got the the puppet DeSantis in there. He's doing some good
Yeah,
things,
but
but
yeah, I know, but you know what?
uh-huh,
What always is in the back of my mind, yeah,
uh-huh,
it's okay. And who knows, in 4 years or whatever, th-
uh-huh.
there might be an election and somebody totally different and all goes to shit.
Well, you know what? I don't think it really matters for US. I mean, it's I
Yeah,
think
I mean, if you
yeah,
think,
uh-huh,
yeah, let's go to Texas because they are
uh-huh,
not going overboard with
uh-huh.
all the restrictions, and I think they completely ended it. And yeah, but all of that can change in the blink of an eye when somebody else takes over as governor or whatever.
You know, it's a death or birth moment for the world, but for US, I think it's going to be the mm, I don't know any other way to say it, but the ego of the American, I don't know if it can handle this kind of change.
Mhm.
You know, because a lot of Americans have been they just naturally assume they're number one, right? Or the exceptional country, right? So
Yeah,
it's like, what happens when you're number two? Oh no, I think that the region of USA will still be powerful afterwards, but it's not going to be number one anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
But just the fact of such a massive change, which has happened to every other country, but this would be the first time for the U.S. aside from the whole Mudflood Tartaria narrative, but as far as the mainstream history, this would be the first time for such a collapse to happen for the U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
But you know what? I see for the weirdos like us that it's a high time of being able to do things. So um,
Yeah.
and the whole cryptocurrency thing is like I said before, because I'm basically looking at it every day, Judith. But it is part of it's the entry to the B system, but at the same time, I'm seeing that a lot of people could use the funds from cryptocurrency gains as seed money to start positive things, and we may be those islands of stability for friends and family, and then also to fund projects that could really do some things in the next couple of years.
I have a very strong mental adverse reaction to cryptocurrencies. And I'm not saying people who are investing in it are bad people or something. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that it was from the very, very beginning. It was don't touch it. Never, ever touch it.
Nobody knows who Satoshi is, right? Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah. So. And the two words block and chain do not promise human freedom to me.
It's definitely Saturnalian. That's for sure. But I'm not one of those people that are like, there was a lot of this libertarian thinking in the beginning, like, oh, it's gonna free everything.
Yeah, blah blah blah.
I don't think so, but I'm practical. So, in the last year, I've been focused a lot on it.
Yeah.
But I know too that it could disappear tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So,
but,
if people can make money and start something great with it, wonderful. I just have a strong feeling it's not for me. And if it takes longer than 10 minutes to explain a financial product to me, I'm not interested.
Well, it's a total Aquarian thing, right? Because it was made by nerds, basically, and with their mental capability, they can do all these things that the average person cannot even understand. Like, I agree with you as far as the technical aspect, that most people they're going to enter in the last adoption phase where you just swipe a card, or you do a payment through your phone. The way it's set up right now, it's like way too complicated for the average person. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I was kind of guided to into it, but you know what? Let me tell you, I might have said this before, but it really started for me with Dogecoin, and it's called cryptocurrency. So obviously there's a monetary aspect, but I mainly did it because I'm a weirdo. So I said, you know what? I want to be a Dogenaire, which is like 1 million tokens or more, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't really focused on price points. I was just focused on that 1 million token number, because I said, you know what? That's I have Mars and Leo, so it was like a bragging point for me. Like, well, you may have $1 million, but do you have 1 million Dogecoins? and nobody ever thought Dogecoin would go above 1 cent. But then it, far past that. But it was but I'm bringing that up because that is an example of a unusual, weird fringe thinking. Like, well, why would you even put money in that? Because it's Dogecoin. It has the funny dog on it, So, but then also, like you were saying, a lot of these tokens, they don't interest them. Like Bitcoin is so boring to me. So this was before Dogecoin started to blow up, but I said, if it were to happen, if I was going to make money, I'm going to do it with the one you're not supposed to do it with. And guess what? People are like, how did you know? I didn't know, but I just go with what I'm into. So I have some Virgo energy. So like, you have a cat, right? So Virgo rules small animals and pets. So what's the Doge? It's the dog, right? Yeah. And then think about it too. The Sirius, the dog star, he was the hunting companion or the helper of the hunter Orion. So, and Dogecoin was started as a joke, but it was also kind of like a teaching tool, or to get, because you have to think, Dogecoin came in end of 2013. So this was way before the average public. It's very arcane, the idea of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So it came as a helper, kind of like, it has like a fun cartoon face on it, right? So there's that Virgo aspect, but
Yeah.
I don't know how that interesting it is to people, but basically, there is nothing you cannot look at with an occult or metaphysical eye, because our
That, yeah.
whole existence is conspiracy. Everything is occult. There's nothing that you can't look at with a metaphysical or archetypal lens. Like everything's a Jungian archetype, basically, right?
How do you do that when you do the dishes?
Oh, you
How
just
do
start
you
thinking of,
put on
right?
your occult lens?
Well, it could be, could be Virgo people who are like, oh, this has to be like overly. It's funny. Virgo could be like very tidy, but it could be Virgo people could be very messy.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about the categorization of
Mm-hmm.
things. So. But no, everything is. I think too though that it's good to be aware of all these things, but then like the Zen master said, but then you got to try to forget it all. It's too much,
Mm-hmm.
it's too much because it is all there, but then um we were talking earlier about some of the human design things, or there's some people that say I am this and I am that. It's true and it's not true, because
Yeah, exactly.
people definitely have a personality setup, but if you attach yourself too much to say I am this, that's not good either, right? So
Yeah, then you think you have your identity there. And
yeah,
it's on the other hand, it's very limiting again,
yeah,
because I cannot do this because I am that.
yep,
You know what I mean? And people with that constellation and arrangement in their human design, yeah, maybe I should.
I do find it helpful though,
Mm-hmm.
interacting with people though, because
Yeah.
before I would think like, this person's so unreasonable, or if you're just at odds. But then if you understand, well, he has this setup, and then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
can help a little bit. But then you also start looking at people like cartoons, which is not good. Right? So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, I just want to thank you, Judith, because always have a good talk on your show. And
Yeah, me too. And I'm especially happy to see you back in the saddle, and that you
yeah,
have recovered. I have missed our talks.
yeah, I mean, the there's a couple things that come to mind. Number one, there's not that many people you could talk to these days.
Mm.
Number two, the whole Trump era, I found that highly entertaining. But then in retrospect, you can kind of say, not that it was all scripted, but that it was definitely a game that was being played. you know,
Mm.
and I think also this is a time to be proactive
Mm.
and start. This is the manifestation. This is a time of manifestation. So it's good to keep on the tabs of what the news items are, and thinking about what this what it might mean, but also start putting things in action if you haven't, because this is a high time to really manifest or bring into fruition what were you born to do.
Mhm.
And like we were saying before, are you worried, are you driven by fear, are you trying to please other people, or is there some kind of is there are you trying to fulfill somebody else's idea of what you
Dream.
should be?
Mm.
Yeah, because everybody has that, no matter what background you come from. And if you're watching this show, you are definitely a weirdo. So don't try to be don't try to be normal. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Masaki. That was very encouraging.
I just call it as I see it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, dear weirdos, that was
Yeah.
it. Night flight for today with the wonderful Masaki Miyagawa. And we will see you all next time. Stay safe and sound out there. Bye bye.
Bye bye.